There's no website or anything. We have a direct relationship.
This is actually really fascinating. I was actually talking to somebody earlier today who does something kind of similar to you, just in terms of dealing directly with other land investors. But this idea of buying from other land flippers and then selling to other land flippers or land investors of some kind, I'm always trying to visualize like the different arms of your business. I mean, most standard land flippers have the buying arm and then the selling arm, like maybe a buying website and a selling website, two different brands for that. Do you have three? Like on the selling end, do you have one that goes to retail people and one that goes to other investors? Or how do you divide up the ones that you intend to go one direction versus another?
So for wholesale, we don't really use like the website, like a website and just say send the website to all the land investors. Maybe we should. That's probably a good idea. But currently how we're doing it is we have one retail website, and that is for any of like someone who wants to buy one parcel of land, just a retail customer. The other side is, so our sales guy, Mike, who is just phenomenal, we actually just pulled a list one by one, created a list of like 500 or 400 different land companies, got the emails and phone numbers, and we just developed like an outbound sales strategy. So there's no website or anything. We have a direct relationship with all the guys who buy wholesale from us. So we'll just call them or email or text, but it's very like one-on-one because it's almost like consultative, because some inventory works for some people and other inventory doesn't work for other people. The reason why we have such very high retention on our wholesale stuff is because when we talk to each investor, we understand their business and we're not going to sell them anything that they're not going to make a profit on, because then they'll just never work with us again. So when we talk to them, we understand their business. Mike, our sales guy, actually helps them with like coaching, not coaching, but like more like marketing and stuff like that. So it's a very consultative thing, and it's not just like click here, buy this link, and we'll send you your deed. Yeah, because the lifetime value of one wholesale customer is incredibly high.
Oh, yeah.
We really call them, understand their business and their position before we even consider selling them any inventory.
So like walk me through the math problem on this. So if you are buying from, and just look kind of looking for like an average standard way that one of these deals would work. So if there's a property worth 10 grand, just for easy numbers, what is that original land flipper buying it for? What are you buying it for? What's the next guy buying it for? And then what are they selling it for? Like, how does everybody make money in this process? And is it really worth everyone's time? I mean, it must be, I'm assuming, because it's happening, but yeah, help me understand that.
That's the challenge, is if that was the case, we almost skip on half of the deals that are presented like for us to purchase, just because the numbers won't work. So usually how it works is it's like a 4x. So let's say that someone's selling a piece of land for $10, just for easy numbers. The first guy buys it for 2.5, then we buy it for like 3.5, 4 if it's a really good deal, and then we sell it for like 5.5, 6. And then the final person who sells it retail is the one that makes the largest margin, because they're doing the hard work of finding retail customers.
So if this thing can't actually sell at full retail value, whatever that is, and I guess that's another question I'll get to in a second, but if that $10,000 sale price can't be achieved, then this whole thing kind of falls apart, right? Or at least maybe it wouldn't work as well because there wouldn't be as much meat on the bone.
Yep. And that's why, like, before we buy anything, we don't buy super expensive stuff. So most of our land is like between $4 to under $10,000, but when you buy in volume, it kind of adds up very quickly.
And so I guess my other connected question there was, it sounds like because it's important to have certainty about what that thing is actually worth, retail value. Does this kind of limit you to certain markets where it's easy to understand that? Like where it's easy to find comps, like there's a good, reliable, dependable way we can all bank on and make sure this is actually true. Instead of like, we've got this one-of-a-kind property and nobody really knows what it's worth, but it's probably worth more than what we're paying for it. I mean, is there certain like cookie-cutter type properties that you limit yourself to working with?
Yep. So the last 3 out of 3 big acquisitions that we did this year have all been cookie cutter properties. So I love cookie cutter portfolios because that they just have such a high predictability. So even on our retail side, right, if you look at some of our portfolios or whatever, I usually price every lot the same, which is pretty crazy because individual pricing is such a big thing in the land thing and any other property thing. But for the most part, I just see them as units. Like if there's, if they fit, they're in the same area, same acreage, they have access, we price it all the same. And that's just for simplicity. Because if we were to sit there and individually price out, all these properties wholesale and all these properties retail, I think it would be a mess. So we just put a cookie cutter price on the wholesale and on the retail side of it.
Does this ever not work for anybody in this process? And maybe, I don't know how much you follow up to see, did you sell at that price or what? I don't know, has it ever happened where it's oh man, we just made the wrong estimate here. It's not actually worth that. We overpaid. Or are you able to steer clear of that for the most part in some way?
So far, we have steer cleared of it, knock on wood. But the thing is, I'm kind of on the very conservative side when it comes to taking bets, because if we're wrong, we weren't wrong on 1 or 2 parcels. We were wrong on 200 or 300. Usually, there's definitely a big margin of safety if we're ever going to even buy anything. That's been kind of our insurance policy, is just to have a giant, big margin of safety so that we're protected and our wholesale customers are also protected.
I would also think at some point, if you figured out your evaluation was off, you could always pivot and just sell a lot more of your units retail versus wholesale, because, regardless of how off you were, there should still be that margin of safety on the retail front to recoup a lot of your investment. Right?
Yep. So if sometimes some smaller portfolios, 50 or 100 lots, we won't even wholesale them. So we'll just throw them up on the website, and it just makes more sense for retail. So there's only just a few things that are offered wholesale when the numbers work. So it's not every property we can just wholesale them. Just sometimes it just won't work.
You mentioned this sales guy, Mike. So it sounds like he plays a pretty important role in connecting you guys with a lot of your end buyers who are other investors. What exactly does he do, and where did you find him? Good sales guys can be kind of hard to find, people who understand the business and know how to maintain those relationships. So how did that all come together?
So he actually saw one of our retail listings on LandWatch. It was some land in Antrim County, Michigan. He actually was naturally interested in land, and he filled out that little lead form. And then I think he texted me or I texted him, but one way or the other, we started texting. And then he's like, I saw this property. I think I can really help you guys. And we just got on a phone call. He was naturally interested in owning property, but he also had 15 to 20 years of sales experience, and he was looking for a new opportunity. Basically, that's how we got connected. He just saw one of our land listings and reached out as a customer, and then it turned into something more.
And then he sold you.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's how he was a great salesperson. So
does he get compensated in a sales commission when something sells, or is there some kind of I'm always curious about that, because I know I've heard a lot of different ways that people do this and find really good people using very different compensation methods. But for somebody like that, how does he make money and get paid?
We started talking, and the first thing, after when we started talking about compensation, he was like, yeah, I actually don't want you to pay me hourly. I just want you to pay me on the sales that I create. So we put together a commission model, and that's how you know a good salesperson. In my opinion, I think it's if someone is a real producer, they will be able to bet on their skills and their ability to make sales, and they don't want to be locked in to some kind of salary or hourly thing. So we put together just a commission model on just off net of what we make on each deal.
Yeah, somebody like that, you really will want to pay them as much as possible, because that means you're making tons of money. It's almost kind of like a backwards way of looking at taxes. If you got to pay that taxes, that means you did really good. Give yourself a pat on the back. I still have a hard time thinking of it that way. But
yeah,
that's what somebody told me once.
Well, they tell you that because they haven't had to pay a big tax bill yet.
Yeah, exactly. Given the way your business works, it sounds like direct mail is not a thing for you. Is that correct? Have you ever sent out mail? Or do you not really need to rely on that for anything?
I have a story about that. Especially when you listen to podcasts and you go to these events and all this other stuff, you just come out with a million different ideas. I had a phase at that point when I was very inspired and very motivated to send mailers. So I put together, it was so bad. We sent 50,000 mailers in 6 weeks. And it was my first time ever sending mailers. But basically, there was no price on them. We just got blown up with the response, but we had 2 people who were just getting trained on how to do intake, and the whole thing fell apart. And then after that, I was like, I think I've had my fun with mailing, and we're going to get back to our main business. But now maybe we're going to experiment with doing some mailers, but not on the acquisition side, but more so for our retail sales. So we would be sending out like postcards saying land in Arkansas, owner finance to existing landowners.
So direct mail is a part of your business currently? Or that was just kind of the 50,000 thing, that was just kind of like just one massive mistake and kind of moved on?
Yeah, so we haven't touched mailing since then.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm just saying, like, we might start experimenting with it again.
Yeah, it's like my kids have to take driver's training. I'm going to only let them drive a monster truck that has a minimum speed of 100 miles an hour, and we'll see how that goes. Were you going to say something, Ajay?
Yeah, I was. I was just going to say it was hysterical when Peter and I met at this mastermind event. The four of us were chatting, and Peter brought up that he'd never used direct mail as part of his acquisition strategy, and I was in a room with investors where all of us only used direct mail. I think we'd done a little bit of texting and cold calling and stuff, but direct mail had been our primary form of marketing for acquisitions. And we hear Peter complaining. He's like, yeah, it's crazy. You know, these leads come in and you've got to like price them and call the sellers and do this stuff. We're like, Peter, that's our entire business, man. What do you mean? And it's funny, you know, because Peter's got such a unique business model. He just has different pain points than us. And so it was really interesting highlighting that, but him being so versatile, he recognizes that there's still a lot of value in mail as a marketing channel. So I think what he was sharing a moment ago, Peter, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're looking at using direct mail as part of your disposition strategy to get in front of people's faces.
Yeah. Exactly. So exclusively for disposition.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, Ajay. I'm not sure that I thought I heard that, but I just kind of dismissed it because, like, no, he couldn't possibly mean that. So you're going to, like, get a bunch of lists of people that you think are going to want to buy land and then send them, like, ads, basically? Like what a realtor does?
100%. I tested that on a small scale a little while ago, and it was actually mailers to land companies. And we did get some wholesale customers off of that. So now I want to experiment on a larger scale with, like, advertising to landowners for, like, the retail disposition side of it.
Oh, you're still here. Well, hey, this is the end screen, and there's a lot of cool stuff here in this channel. You could watch something like this over here, or you could also watch something like this over here. This is really neat too. I hope I'll see you again soon. Be sure to leave a like if you haven't already. And if you want to, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and you can see more videos like this. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you next time.